Warning, this video is not meant to hate on Daniel.T.Gaming. It's meant to be a critical video for him. If you have your own thoughts on this, feel glad to say them down below. I'm not going to delete your comments, so why should you worry? And if you want more evidence of me not making this video for hateful reasons, I'm friends with Daniel on Discord, and I talk to the guy in voice chat calls sometimes. I'm just really showing more concern for the guy, really. Anyway, let's just play the intro and get this over with already.
Beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me.
So Daniel.T.Gaming has done a big goof recently with one of his videos on an animator called Antoons, mostly pointing out his deathbed videos. And his main point of the deathbed videos was, oh my god, think of the children, when the deathbed videos in themselves weren't meant for children. They were supposed to be parody material. Antoons even said it himself that it's just a meme and Daniel shouldn't really be getting too hot-headed over it. But there's a lot of points in Daniel's videos on Antoons, both part 1 and part 2, that aren't really that valid, and well, what I'm going to do here is be Antoons' devil's advocate. So sit back, relax, or get salty as I turn this little robot's video into a pile of scrap metal. Issue 1. Daniel being a little bit salty that Antoons said he doesn't know what a meme is. We already know that Daniel has admitted to being wrong in some points, like, for example, taking the deathbed videos too far. If you want proof of him saying that, here's a clip from his part 2 video.
Popular problem with the video, and that was the fact that I took the whole kids thing too seriously. Like, I was bringing up a bunch of times that these videos are traumatizing kids, or they should have some kind of age restriction thing. And while I do agree that there needs to be some type of age restriction thing, I can agree on how the fact that I took the whole think about the children traumatizing kids thing a little bit too seriously.
Eventually, Daniel does read Antoons' comment again and points out the little nag that the monkey or whatever this thing is. And Antoons' nag was, quote, also learn what a meme is, end quote. And Daniel does reply to this, but not in a defensive manner. It sounds more like he was doing it as a petty excuse.
I'm sorry, but you sound like you haven't been on this platform long enough to see what content is allowed and what isn't. Actually, I have. I've seen plenty of offensive material before. I've seen dink meme material, which is extremely offensive. I've seen iDubbbz before. I've seen HERESY before. Even Leafy is here before this channel died. I've seen plenty of rude, crude, offensive content.
But one thing I can agree with Daniel on is that Antoons' deathbed videos aren't really that funny, so to speak. They're not a meme, it's just, where's the joke, Annie? Come on, tell me. Is it because the characters are in a dark and serious situation? Because someone's dead? I mean, there's no exaggeration to a comedic level, it's just sad, that's it. I can also agree that Antoons' deathbed videos are very repetitive in their formats. The only justification I could say is that they're joke videos, and that would kind of make sense that Antoons doesn't really want to work too hardly on them. They're not his real works, like those sprouts or whatever. Antoons, if you're watching this, make more of those sprout videos. That's some pretty good shit right there. But anyway, let's move on to another subject. Antoons' game. Number 2, survival of the fetus should not be fetus deletus. I'm gonna say it, and I'm possibly gonna look like a monster. Survival of the fetus is not an evil game. Because truth is, kids, there's a lot of video games out there with offensive and raunchy content, yet can still make money. There's The Binding of Isaac, which is a dark video game that has a lot of dark subjects from the Bible, and the main character, Isaac, is named after Isaac from the sacrifice of Isaac. Then there's Lisa the Painful, a post-apocalyptic world that's mostly populated by perverted men, and you play as a guy trying to get his adoptive daughter back. and yet that game still has some funny moments at times, and yet that game still makes money despite all that stuff in there. Hell, this even goes for other media as well, like Happy Tree Friends, and that's just mindless slapstick violence that's very brutal. And you might be saying, but Silver, this game includes abortion! And yes, I know abortion is a very, very serious topic. It's when you remove the baby out of the womb before it's majorly developed, and then just throwing the barely developed corpse away. And yes, I would see why people would get very sensitive about that. It's basically killing a baby because you didn't want to have a child yet. But here's the problem, Daniel. Didn't you notice the name is called Survival of the Fetus, and in the abortion level, you're supposed to avoid being aborted? And what other points does Daniel make about the game? The only other thing he said is that it made him sick to his stomach, and that was about it. And that's not a point, that's a bias. And another thing that Daniel brought up was not really a con or vile act that the video game has done, but he was just explaining what happens in Survival of the Fetus.
In Survival of the Fetus, the game takes place in a pregnant woman's stomach. You control a fetus flinging through the air with your umbilical cord preventing you from hitting the walls. Over time, things get darker as you have to block hills, ghost babies, literal abortion tools, and punches from a boxing match, and you have to survive it for 9 months.
How is explaining something a point to an argument? And come to think about it, you don't really get aborted in this game, you avoid getting aborted. It's in the name, Survival of the Fetus. To overcome incredibly harsh conditions, you survive getting aborted. You survive a punch to the stomach and help your mother win a boxing match. You know, this whole entire Survival of the Fetus game could be a whole lot worse, you know. Well, at least Antoons has one point in this argument. Do your research, Daniel. And if I can add something to what Antoons has said, don't let your bias overcome your credibility. Because really, Daniel, just because you're sensitive to it doesn't mean it's going to be fun or funny for someone else. If you really want something offensive, I would recommend a Season 2 song from BoJack Horseman, Get That Fetus, Kill That Fetus. Yeah, that song exists, and I told you about it. You're welcome. Anyway, now that's over with, let's get on to the last subject. Number 3, the content creator is not responsible for what happens in his comment section. I saved this one for last because I find this the most ridiculous thing that Daniel said. Daniel makes a quick little bit at Antoons' comment section being disturbing. Now, I know in Antoons Part 2, Daniel does point out that he overreacted a bit to the Amy Rose comment, but here's the thing.
A person's comment section does not represent them. It represents their fan base, you ignorant piece of scrap metal.
This is like an apples to oranges comparison when you think about it. You're comparing a person to multiple people who comment on that person's content. And there's no real justification for this. It's not just Antoons' comment section, you know. It's everywhere on YouTube. You're always gonna find that one guy making a joke comment that you don't get, or that one guy talking about toes, yet no one else is talking about it. Now you might be thinking, hey, Silver, maybe Antoons can disable his comments. Well, there are normal people in Antoons' comment section, believe it or not, and how would he get critique from actual normal people, or any moral support really? Because some people out there actually think he's good. Hell, this guy has worked with Kelly Flipnote. Yes, that guy who made that weird bouncy Flipnote beanbag fox or whatever, I don't know. I know that guy has an obsession with birds though. Moral of the story, don't judge someone by the comments they get, judge them by their actions, their own comments. See how they behave, how they react to things. And now it looks like we reached the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and now here's a message for Daniel. Look, buddy, I'm not mad at you. I'm just really disappointed on how you made this and handled this video's backlash. And yes, you did make a response video, and for most of it, you handled it pretty cool until the end where you got a little bit more biased again. I'm sorry, dude. I really do hope you take this video in consideration, because I don't want you to go on a downward spiral and not into Emperor Lemon fashion. I'm talking about the Leafy is here fashion. Anyway, I'm SF1232, and I'm out of here.